Craftsman Days are here at Lowe's with big savings on the tools you need. Save $100 on the Craftsman V20 6-tool power tool combo kit, now at $199. No matter what the project is, Craftsman's high-quality, high-performance products empower you to build on. Stop by your nearest Lowe's store and check out the full line of Craftsman tools today. Valid through 6/18 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Nats Chat is brought to you by Walters. Walters is the place to be this weekend. The Nats this weekend welcome the Detroit Tigers, and DC United on Saturday night at 7:30 hosts the LA Galaxy.
Register at waltersdc.com/events and receive a free old-time lager for doing so.
And now the pitch. Swinging a long drive, deep to right field, way back. Forget about it. Going, and gone. Goodbye. In and out of the upper deck. Bang! Zoom goes Corey Dickerson on his first swing off the injured list. With a 2-run homer, his first of the year.
Here's Jorge Soler. Pitch. Swinging a high drive, deep center field. Back on this one, call to the warning track. At the wall, he leaps, and it's gone. A towering 2-run homer to left center field for Jorge Soler. He's done it again. And he puts the Marlins in front 3-2.
Second baseman Arise well toward the hole in the pitch. Swung a ground ball up the middle. Birdie's right there. Shortstop steps on second, throws to first, and the game is over. The Marlins turn yet another double play and a ground ball up the middle with the shortstop positioned perfectly. 6-3 on the double play, and the Marlins have themselves a series victory, taking the first 2 from the Nationals.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Thursday, May 18th. 2023, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. So one of the more amazing things about this baseball season, and we hit on this on the last installment of the podcast, what the Miami Marlins are doing. The Marlins now are 22-21, despite having a hideous run differential of minus 54. I mean, for comparison's sake, the Nats have a run differential of minus 22, and yet they're 18-25. How and why are the Marlins doing this? Well, they now are an incredible 14-1 in one-run games, as each of the first 2 games of this 3-game series for the Nats at the Marlins has been a 1-run loss for the Nats. Tuesday evening, we had the 5-4 walk-off loss, and Wednesday evening, a 4-3 loss. MacKenzie Gore was the Nats starting pitcher, a rather uneven outing for him. Corey Dickerson, in his first major league game in a month and a half, did hit a homer. But Mark, somehow, some way, the Marlins keep winning these one-run games. The Nats are 7-10 in one-run games. It's a more, normal record in one-run games. The Marlins are 14-1. I don't know how, but they are.
I don't know either, Al, because you watch this game and you say to yourself, what exactly did they do so well to win the game? They went 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position. They got the big 2-run homer from Jorge Soler, and I guess that's the difference, is that they did that. Although Corey Dickerson hit one for the Nats, I mean, they got a double from De La Cruz in the 6th. They got a sac fly. I mean, they did not do a whole lot in this game. They went through a bunch of pitchers. They threw strikes. The Nationals only drew 1 walk against them. I feel like this is the kind of thing that eventually is going to even itself out. The baseball gods are going to punish the Marlins in the second half of the season with a lot of one-run losses. You remember, of course, the original 2005 Nationals that went 50-31 in the first half of the season and 31-50 the rest of the way. They were not quite this good, but they were brilliant in one-run games early on that season. And I'll always remember this. Frank Robinson, some point in July, as things were starting to go downhill, he knew that they weren't going to get it back. He knew that that record in one-run games was misleading, that was going to catch up to them. He knew they didn't have the lineup to pull all those kind of close wins off. And he was right, because they completely fell apart the rest of the way. And hey, if the Marlins can keep it going, more power to them, good for them. But it does feel like this is going to catch up to them eventually, and this is not going to be the way they play all year long.
Yeah, there are teams that do have seasons in which those teams have like these inexplicably great records in one-run games. But by and large, when you're doing what the Marlins are doing, it's going to come crashing down. It's a house of cards that is going to come tumbling down. So we shall see. But more of that on the Marlins Chat podcast. We focus on the Nationals on this podcast. And this was a MacKenzie Gore game. And, like I said, uneven outing for him. It wasn't all bad, but, the final line was not what you would want. 4 runs in 5 1/3 innings. He only gave up 5 hits, but 3 of the hits were extra base hits, a home run, a triple, and a double. He issued 2 walks and 2 wild pitches, but he had another high strikeout game, 7 strikeouts. He threw a lot of strikes, 93 pitches, 60 strikes versus 33 balls. Bottom of the second, he allowed a run on a walk, a wild pitch, a single, and an RBI sac fly, all in succession with 1 out, and he then issued a second wild pitch. Bottom of the fourth, Gore allowed 2 runs, leadoff single by Luis Arraez through the right side of the infield, and then a first pitch 2-run homer by Jorge Soler, he of the walk-off homer in Game 1 of this series. This one was a bomb to center field for a 3-2 Marlins lead. And then also in the inning, Gore gave up a 1-out triple by Gene Segura to deep left center, despite Segura having been down at 1.12. And then Gore, bottom of the 6th, allowed a run on a 1-out walk of Jorge Soler, and then a 1-out opposite field RBI double by Brian De La Cruz to the right center field gap for a 4-2 Marlins lead. It's been kind of odd with Gore these last few outings. His last outing was at strange start this past Friday night at Nationals Park, 3-2 loss to the New York Mets. 4 scoreless innings, but on 96 pitches. So he only lasted for the 4 innings. But what'd you make of MacKenzie Gore on Wednesday evening?
Just a little bit off in a few ways. The pitch counts are kind of a little bit of a concern. He battled back. It looked like he was going to be in real trouble. I think he was at over 70 after 4 innings. So he did bounce back from that. But long at bats, really costly mistake to Soler. We saw the previous night, you leave a pitch out and over the plate to him, he is going to do major damage on it. And, like Hunter Harvey, that's not where he wanted that one. And he paid the price for it. And then I look at the 2 walks. They both eventually came around to score, and that's going to cost you. We've seen kind of his kryptonite, if there is one, is the walk that's hurt him a few times this year. And in this case, in a close 1-run game, that was the difference. And yet you still come away from it and say, hey, bunch of strikeouts, good fastball. He had the ability to get out of some jams and situations that might have gotten worse, had he not been able to clamp down. So there is still good in there. And if this is the worst that there is of him, then that's still, a decent sign. But did not finish strong, unlike that start in Arizona a couple weeks ago where he came out blazing, runners on in the 6th, and he finished back-to-back strikeouts. This time he did not finish strong. And then the mistake to Soler, and I think that was kind of the difference in the whole game.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Gore's numbers now for this season, 9 starts, the ERA is 3.69, the whip is 1.45, the strikeouts per 9 innings, 11.27. There is so much to like. I mean, the nit to pick would be he's putting guys on base. I mean, he's got a whip approaching 1.5. You want to get that thing down there. The walks have been an issue at times in these last few outings. The pitch count has gotten up there, but the strikeouts play, we've talked about that. That is such an encouraging thing moving forward for him when you look long term. And, the worst of him is just him, losing his control a little bit, putting some guys on base. He's not giving up a lot of home runs. He, for the most part, is avoiding the big inning. I mean, it's hard to think of even like one real blow-up inning that MacKenzie Gore has had so far. This continues to be good. I mean, we are starting to see some separation between him and Josiah Gray in terms of results for this season. Like Gray's ERA now for this season is nearly a full run lower than Gore's. But, that can change. Gore's strikeouts are a lot higher than Gray's. Each guy's whip is more or less the same. But yeah, I think with Gore, it's just, he's putting guys on base. He's just got to do a better job of avoiding that.
Right. And let's remember this. He's essentially a rookie. By definition, he's not. He had enough starts for San Diego last year. He's essentially a rookie, first full big league season, and there are going to be some growing pains. And like we said, if this is the worst of him and we do believe in who he's going to be in the long run, then things should progressively get better and he's going to learn from these kind of outings. It's mostly nitpicking stuff. It's, like you said, a few walks, a high pitch count, one mistake to a power hitter. It's not overwhelmingly bad where you say, man, he lost it, or he just can't get through a lineup a second time or a third time, or he's only good for 4 or 5 innings and then it all falls apart. It really isn't anything like that. These are fine-tuning things, and you would hope that with more experience, he figures that out and he gets better. So it's hard to find a lot to blame him for. You'd like for a little bit better. You'd like for 1 or 2 pitches in key moments to be a little bit better. That's not the end of the world. And had the Nats done just a little bit more offensively, he might have come out of this actually with a win, or at worst, a no decision.
Nats Chat would like to wish Lynn Waller a happy birthday. Lynn and her boyfriend Dom attended last year's podcast party at Walters and are avid listeners to this podcast. Lynn's favorite Nationals game is the same as mine, Steven Strasburg's Major League debut from June 8th, 2010.
Hey guys, it's Al Galdi for Window Nation. Some amazing news from Window Nation. You can modernize and reinvest in your home today with new windows from Window Nation, all while capitalizing on Window Nation's best deal of the year. 0% financing for 5 years. Unheard of. 0 interest for 5 years. And Window Nation will give you 2 free windows for every 2 windows that you buy. Call 866-90NATION or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. Protect and increase the value of your home today by taking advantage of this great offer. Again, 0% financing for 5 years and 2 free windows for every 2 windows that you buy. And by the way, that goes for any style of window from Window Nation, and there's no limit. Save thousands of dollars on your new windows and save money on energy bills, all while upgrading the look and feel of your home. 866-90NATION or windownation.com. 866-90NATION or windownation.com. And make sure that you tell Window Nation that Al Galdi sent you.
Here's the 2-2 pitch. Swinging a ground ball, roll to short. This will bring in a run. Birdie has it. He'll throw to first. Close play, and call is just out. Wow. Dickerson scores. Vargas holds at second. It's now Miami 4 and the Nationals 3.
The Nats in this game offensively did have 9 hits, but drew just 1 walk, 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position. Now, 2 of the hits were extra base hits, including a home run. And I think that the guys who provided the extra base hits are worth getting into here. So, Corey Dickerson, he on Wednesday evening started a major league game for the first time since April 1st when he suffered that left calf strain that had him on the 10-day injured list from April 2nd until this past Monday, May 15th. And this kind of worked out well from a standpoint of Joey Meneses is now on the paternity list. So Dickerson on Wednesday evening was an starting designated hitter at number 6 batter. By the way, corresponding roster move to Meneses going on the paternity list. Jake Alou is back after just a few days. He got recalled from AAA Rochester. But Dickerson on Wednesday evening, 2 for 4 with a solo homer and a single. And how about the homer? 2-run second for the Nats. Corey Dickerson, a 1-out, 2-run homer off the second deck in right field for a 2-0 Nats lead. 432 feet per Statcast. And Dickerson in the Nats 1-run 7th, a leadoff single through the right side of the infield on an 0-2 pitch. So Corey Dickerson, in case you're unfamiliar with his work, this is his age 34 season. That signed him this past January, 1-year, $2.25 million contract. This is a guy who can hit. If you look at his numbers, 2019 through 2022, over 1,100 major league plate appearances, OPS plus of 105. He's a big guy, too. I mean, you look at him, like he's got some girth to him. That was some homer that he hit, and you talk about hitting the ground running, first major league game in a month and a half, and he hit some shot at Lone Depot Park on Wednesday evening.
Well, and I think about for the last month, pretty much from the moment he got hurt and we started to see other guys take over, and we're saying to ourselves, well, when he's healthy, are you really going to put him back in the lineup? And is that going to come at somebody else's expense? And this guy isn't, the future around here. So how much playing time should he get? Well, good on Corey, because in his very first at bat off the IL, he put a lot of that to rest and at least showed us all why he may still have some value here. Now, he's got to continue it, of course, but this was a good debut for him. I'll call it a debut, even though he started 1 game way back on April 1st. He does hit right-handers well. He's not the hitter he was a few years ago all around, but the last 3 seasons, the splits against righties still pretty good, not against lefties. So I think you're going to see him in there almost all of the time against righties. It worked out for him to DH this game, like you said, with Meneses on the paternity list. We'll see the next few days how that goes, but I do think he will be in left field here before long. And I got to say, right now, I'm giving him a chance. I'm letting him play against righties for certain, see what he can do for you, because the other guys they put out there, not really producing all that much anymore. Alex Call has cooled off quite a bit. Stone Garrett has cooled off quite a bit. And a left-handed bat that does have some pop, I think in this lineup, that is something that's helpful. Now, no, he's not the future, but at the moment, I think you signed him over the winter. You gave him $2.25 million. Put him out there every day, see what he can do, especially against righties, and then go from there.
If the Nats are going to hit any homers this season, you got to say to yourself, okay, who realistically can get going from a home run hitting standpoint? And Dickerson is one of those guys who realistically could maybe give you some homers as this season goes on. So heck yeah. And if he's going to hit homers like the one that he hit on Wednesday evening, double heck yeah, have him out there. So good job, Corey Dickerson. And good job, Jeimer Candelario. Has Jeimer Candelario gotten going here? He on Wednesday evening as an starting third baseman and number 5 batter, 3 for 4 with a double and 2 singles. He in a 2-run second had a 1-out full count opposite field single to left field. Top of the 4th, a 1-out double off the right field warning track on a 1-2 pitch. And top of the 9th, a leadoff single to left field despite having been down at 1.12. Third consecutive impact game for Candelario offensively. He in the 5-4 walk-off loss at the Marlins on Tuesday evening got on base 4 times, 3 for 3 with a double, an RBI single, another single, and a walk. And Candelario in the 10-3 win over the Mets at Nationals Park this past Monday, 2 for 4 with a triple and a single. He has been really struggling for the most part this season. He had a really bad 2022 season, but he had good 2020 and 2021 seasons. And I know that part of the Jeimer Candelario narrative in the offseason was that this was a guy who could really benefit from the outlawing or minimizing of defensive shifts. I don't know that we're necessarily seeing that right now, but we are seeing a guy hit like a real professional hitter here. I mean, he's been good these last few games.
Yeah, singles and doubles, and that's what they kind of expected him to be. It's 8 straight plate appearances that he reached base going back to Sunday, and the streak finally ended on a scorched line drive that was caught in the 6th, and then he came back the next at bat in the 9th and led off with a single. So good stuff from him. It's a little weird. Every night at the end of the night, you look at the box score and see what the season totals are. And I feel like every few days it's changing who is leading this team and who is really struggling. And Candelario was way down there for a while. He's starting to climb back up. The OPS over 700. Lane Thomas is at 762, but Alex Call's dropped to 676. Dominic Smith starting to hit better, 277. Keibert Ruiz is down to 229 on his average and 628 on the OPS. That's not good for a guy who's hitting right in the heart of the lineup and who not that long ago had a pretty high average and was one of their more consistent hitters. So what we're seeing here is, and I think that's reflective in their lack of offense, there's a lot of inconsistency. There really isn't anybody that you can say day in and day out is producing. They usually have 2 or 3 who are hitting at a time, but it's not always the same 2 or 3. And when those guys get cold, somebody else gets hot. We have not seen, 4 or 5 of them at the same time get a good week going. And I don't know if that will happen or not, but I think that's part of the issue here is that just a real lack of consistency top to bottom in the lineup.
Keibert Ruiz so far in this series, 0 for 4 in each game. C.J. Abrams so far in this series, 0 for 7 with 6 strikeouts. And, to your point of what you were just talking about, I mean, of course, part of it is we're still early in the season. But yeah, this is not a great offensive team. It does do some good things at times and does have some good games, and we've talked about that. But I like to use OPS Plus just because it kind of normalizes everything. It's like a one-stop shop. 100 is average, above 100 good, below 100 bad. Going into Wednesday, pretty much every Nats regular, save for Lane Thomas, Joey Meneses, and Victor Robles, who's hurt, had an OPS plus under 100. So it's a bunch of below league average batters, and to varying degrees. I mean, some guys are like right below 100, some guys are way below 100, but that's what this is. So as we've discussed, I mean, it really is on the Ruizes and the Abrams and the Luis Garcias. Those are the guys who you want to see truly hit, and they've all been kind of up and down, just like everyone in this lineup has been up and down. We are kind of waiting for someone to catch fire to any degree. And as the weather starts to warm up, maybe you see that. I mean, I don't think we're going to see Kyle Schwarber in June of 2021, but it would be lovely to see someone truly get hot. I mean, has anyone really gotten hot yet for the Nats offensively?
We kind of started to see Joey Meneses do this, and I'm not going to call it unfortunately. It's a great reason that he's away from them for a few days, and congrats to him and his wife on the birth of their son. But you hope that 3 days away isn't going to ruin the progress or at least stifle it a little bit from what he was doing, because he was starting to get hot. He was hitting 300 at the time. So hopefully, but he is a guy that you sort of built this lineup around. So you would hope that he can do it. Ruiz, just because of his importance to the team, you really want to see a little bit more consistency from him. At times, he's looked very good at the plate. At times, he has not looked good. And C.J. Abrams, you mentioned it, after that really impressive series against the Mets, he's looked lost up there, and in part because he's not seeing fastballs at all. You heard Kevin Franson mention it on the broadcast. It's a steady dose of changeups and sliders and curveballs. He's going to have to figure out how to either to lay off of those and force them to throw them over the plate or figure out how to make contact on some of these as well. He came up in some big spots in this game. There were chances. He and Call, I think, in the 7th, after the ground out scored the run, but was an out. And then Abrams struck out with a chance to tack on another run. And then Thomas struck out on a high fastball. They didn't give themselves a lot of opportunities in this game, but that was one of them. And C.J. Abrams, who has been good late and in big moments, came up really short in that one.
Nats bullpen on Wednesday evening was good. 2 relievers combined for 2 2/3 scoreless innings. Andres Machado 1 1/3 scoreless innings, and Carl Edwards Jr. 1 1/3 scoreless innings with a couple of strikeouts. He came into the game bottom of the 7th, the runner on first, 2 outs. Nats down 4-3. Struck out the Marlins' number 2 batter and designated hitter Garrett Cooper on 4 pitches. That was a big spot, relatively speaking. And, especially given that Edwards has been struggling lately. Boy, it felt like he needed something like that, and he got it. And then Edwards tossed a scoreless bottom of the 8th, despite giving up a leadoff first pitch double by Luis Arraez on a weird play, a fly ball to shallow center.
Bottom of the 8th inning, Carl Edwards Jr., who got the last out of the 7th, will start the 8th, facing Luis Arraez, who swings and hits one in the air to shallow left center. Alex Call on the run coming in. Missed the ball! It's picked up by Vargas. Arraez trying for second, and the throw will not be in time. He goes in with a head-first dive.
I don't know if Call was shaken up or what, but he lay dead on the field while the ball was still rolling. Now, I don't want to kill Call because, again, if he was shaken up, if he felt like he was injured, then I'm not going to say, hey, why didn't you get up and run after the ball? But he did get up and stay in the game. And I don't know. I didn't think that was a great look, man. You fail to make a tough catch, okay, but the play is still ongoing. To just lay there a dead guy in a Western. I thought that was kind of bizarre.
Everything about that play was really weird. He maybe didn't even have to dive for it. I'm not going to say it was an easy catch, but he goes to dive. He holds his glove up pretty high, and it just goes right by him. It maybe nicked the glove a little bit. It was not a shoestring attempt at a catch or anything like that. And then he goes down, and I had the same feeling watching it, thinking oh, God, he got hurt. And maybe he just knew that Vargas was backing him up, or maybe he was banged up and a little bit of that impact that you lose your breath or something, and you need a moment to catch yourself. I don't know. But it was not a good look, both the failure to make the catch, but beyond that, like you said, just the lying there, and thankfully it didn't cost them. That felt like in the moment that could have been really, really costly. So good on Vargas for backing him up. And I don't know what exactly was going on with Call, but that was an ugly play in a lot of ways, both the attempt at it and then the reaction to it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a tendency when you're playing a sport or doing something athletic and you try to do something big and you don't do it. And then there's kind of and you sort of relish in your failure for a second. That's fine in your backyard, okay? That's fine at the gym. During a major league game, no, the play is ongoing. Wallow in your pity after the play or something like that. Yeah, that was just weird what Cole did.
Thankfully, it's not the worst giving up on a play by a national center fielder in history. Do you know the one that I'm talking about going back a ways? It's a good decade plus since the all-time gaffe in that department by a guy named Niger Morgan. Adam Jones of the Orioles hits a ball to the wall in center field. Niger Morgan goes back, leaps for it, comes down, looks at his glove, thinks he has it, realizes he doesn't, slams his glove to the ground in utter frustration, believing that he did not rob a home run and therefore it's a free trip around the bases. Little did he realize the ball was sitting 20 feet to his side as Jones is racing around the bases. And I think it was Josh Willingham had to go retrieve it, and it turned into an inside the park home run. So thankfully this wasn't as bad as that. And on the list of embarrassing moments by national center fielders, this was not that, but still not a great look for Alex Call.
We have had some good glove slams in Nationals history. Niger Morgan, Sean Kelly. That's a good essay question. Compare and contrast the two famous glove slams in Nationals history. Also regarding the Nats, former Nats starting pitcher Anibal Sanchez. He spoke with reporters on Wednesday afternoon at Lone Depot Park in Miami. Anibal, in a social media post on Tuesday night, announced his retirement. We hit on this for a bit on the last installment of the podcast. Very good career for Anibal Sanchez. I mean, obviously a hero for the 2019 World Series champion Nats, but he pitched for the Marlins, he pitched for the Detroit Tigers, pitched for the Atlanta Braves, a lot of postseason experience, a good bit of regular season success. Not a Hall of Famer or anything like that, but you talk about like a good career. This guy had a good career.
And very durable for a long time, always reliable for you. And let's remember at the time, the Nats pick him up after he had sort of a bounce back with the Braves. He was going to be their number 4 starter. He got off to a terrible start the first 6 weeks of that season. He hurts his hamstring. We're thinking, are you even going to bring him back? He might be finished. He came back and was phenomenal the rest of the way straight through October. And anytime anybody, I just remember in the playoffs, it just kept coming up from national reporters, would refer to the national starting pitching and about their big 3 of Scherzer, Strasburg, and Corbin. And Davey Martinez every time would say, hang on, it's not a big 3, it's a big 4, because Anibal Sanchez has been just as good. And he was right, because down the stretch of that year and into October, he was just as important to them. Didn't go as well the next year. He sat out then a year, came back, and we kind of scoffed at it at the time, like, why are the Nationals bringing him back in 2022? And you know what? Down the stretch last year, he was important for them. He was probably their most consistent pitcher. I was glad to see him be able to go out on his own terms. I'll just say that I really, really enjoyed covering him, both because of the way he pitched. You know me, I love a good crafty right-hander. That's what he was. The butterfly changeup, all that. I love that. But even more than that, just a really, really good person, good human being. Cared about his family tremendously. He would fly home to Miami on off days just to be with his family and his kids. It was so important to him. His little son, Anibal Jr., was a constant presence in the clubhouse, in uniform, out on the field, taking BP, hitting off a tee. A really, really good family man whose priorities were obviously in the right place all along. And so I'm glad to see that he went out on his own terms. I still thought there was a chance he was going to try to come back and pitch this year. I guess the offers never came for him, but really good, solid career. And I think Nats fans should always have a smile on their face when they think of Anibal Sanchez.
Yeah, this worked out well with him announcing it on Tuesday night. I mean, maybe he did this strategically. Nats are playing at the Marlins, and so he could go to Lone Depot Park, and, he could dress both media corps and, talk to Marlins fans as well. He was on the Masson telecast of the game on Wednesday evening. That was good. I was thinking about this, though, and, we know the deal with the Nats, but think about now all of the players on the Nats over these last few years for whom the Nats ended up being their last team before retiring. So many guys now have ended up coming to the Nats or being with the Nats over these last few seasons and then ended up retiring. You think about Anibal Sanchez, Ryan Zimmerman, Gerardo Parra, Alex Avila, Jordy Mercer, Steve Cishek, Will Harris. We'll, of course, see what happens with Steven Strasburg. And, I'm not even including guys who haven't necessarily retired but aren't in the majors anymore. Alcides Escobar is not in the majors anymore. Eric Fetty is not in the majors anymore. Cesar Hernandez is playing in the minors. It says a lot about where the Nats have been these last few years. I think one of the best things about this season is that we are watching so many more guys who feel like they are part of the future as opposed to just, these temporary placeholders or guys who were here in the past. And I think that's a sobering list when you go through all of the guys who were here 2020 through 2022 for whom the Nats ended up being those players' final team before retiring or being out of the majors.
Yeah, I'll put Michael Franco on that list probably as well. It's a good reminder. I need to update this column. I write it every few years. I've done it, but looking exactly at that, players who played for the Nationals and then never played anywhere else again. I did it years ago the first time because it felt like there were a lot. And sure enough, there were, especially in those early years. And if I have this right, the 2006 Nationals, not a very good team. There were 20 players on that team who never played in the big leagues again after that season. 20 in one season. Thankfully, they're nowhere close to that again. But that number would go down in the 2012 to 2019 range because they were obviously a better team. But it's gone up again the last few years. Hopefully, we won't see a lot more of that. Like you said, there are more pieces now who look like they're long-term pieces and not these either veterans at the end of their career or guys who get called up for a cup of coffee and then don't stick. Hopefully there are more established big leaguers now than there were back in the day.
Absolutely. You tell us what you think. Hit us up on Twitter @Nats_chat. You can email the podcast, natschatpodcast natschat@gmail.com, including if you would like to sponsor the show. We'd love to have you. Email Tim Shover, see what we can do for you. That email address again, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We have a new website, natschatpodcast.com. Check it out. You can listen to previous installments of the show. You can get yourself a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. Again, that website is natschatpodcast.com. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. A thank you to Tim Newmark for the music of the Nats Chat Podcast. Visit timnewmark.com. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
1 out to get. Ground ball. This might do it. Hanley to first. He did it. He did it. Anibal Sanchez. The first in the big leagues since 2004. It was Randy Johnson. That was a perfect game. The first rookie to do it since Bud Smith in 2001.